Welcome to Growing Your Fan Base Lesson 1, Play and Promote Your Shows. You have to think about this. A big reason why you aren't succeeding at a career in music is because you rely on third-party platforms like social media to reach your fans. So I just want to go through some metrics here for you so you can actually see that social media isn't exactly the place where you need to go promote stuff. So if you look over here on email, like on the top thing here, it says email versus social media. The total users of email is 3.8 billion. The total users of social media is 3.4. That's all social media. That's not just one particular thing. That's not just Facebook or Instagram, whatever. And then it has preferred channel for promos. So this is how people expect to be promoted to. So when people are saying via email, they prefer that for promotions, whereas 20% say they prefer promotions to come through social media. So you're getting 3/5 instead of 1/5, right? So that's a lot. It's 3 times more. And then the conversion rate of essentially going from that link to a purchase on email is 6%. On social media, it's less than 2%. So again, 3 times more. And that can actually be even worse if you track from an ad or if the call to action isn't very clear. So like you don't tell them exactly how to make that, purchase. Then we have another one that's called open click-through engagement rate. That's not super involved in necessarily in social media, but really what that's saying is like if you post something, there's only about a 0.58% chance somebody's going to click that on social media. So it's not very likely that if you're trying to sell something that they're going to click it from social media. Whereas on the email, they're about on average is about 23% for email lists to open the email. Then for a click-through rate or the CTR there, it's about a 3 or 4%. So then it shows the return on investment is 4,400%. And essentially for social media, there's not much of a return on investment at all because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to try to get people to click on stuff. Now that's just one thing. We're going to go through a couple more here just to kind of give you an idea how good email is for this particular purpose. So it says email versus social media usage by age. Obviously, social media drops off a cliff over like the age of 50, but you can see there the email rates pretty much stay the same. So email from 15 to 65 is about exactly the same. It's about 90%. Whereas social media, after you get over like 45, starts to really drop off, and after 65, it really drops off. So especially if you're trying to target people that are older, you probably wouldn't use social media at all. But even so, even if you're targeting people under 30 or under 40, you're still going to need to use email because more people use email than social media. And again, you have to realize that email is essentially one platform because you can distribute your mass messages to any email address, right? Whereas social media, you might have to be on 10 different social media platforms just to get the same reach that your email would. So here's another thing, how consumers want to receive promotional messages. We talked about this already. 60% via email. Consumers sign up for email promotions from brands much more often than for social media. And then it says social media. While social media still falls short on email in this area, it has still seen an increase over the past few years. Now, these are from a couple years ago, but they have pretty much the exact same metrics. It just takes a while for these to kind of come about, right? And again, so the engagement rate for social media, not great, right? 0.58% overall engagement. And that's for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's the average percent, right? And then email, your open rate is like 1/5 or 23%. And then your email click-through rate is around 3.5%, 4%. You have to know what each platform is good for. So when you're thinking about integrating email and social media marketing, you have to know that they each have their own lane and they kind of have to stay in those lanes. So email marketing, what is email marketing good at? Well, it's good at delivering targeted, personalized messages, good at converting subscribers into customers. That's key. If you want to make money, you have to turn them into customers, right? So you actually have to buy something. More than that, you want to build relationships with customers or fans in this scenario. And it's also great for retaining customers. So what's social media good for if it's not good for those things? Well, driving traffic to your website, sending people to your email list even, making them sign up for something, right? Building brand recognition, building community, building brand loyalty. I'm sure some of you guys have seen Wendy's Twitter account where they start roasting other accounts and kind of made like a funny community around that and built some brand loyalty around Wendy's. That's a great way to kind of build brand loyalty. As a band, it's basically your best communication to reach as many people as possible, but that's not to necessarily say you're going to get them to buy anything. And that's what email is good for. So remember this, email is good for promotion and sales. Social media is good for telling people to go somewhere. This means you need to use social media to get people on an email list if you ever want them to buy anything from you. And I'll just give you a story, an anecdote about my life. In 6 years of working for business consulting, we would run probably, couple $100 of social media ads a day, if not more. And we would probably get, 1,000 people on a list, or, trying to get them to a webinar or something like that. And in my time as a business consultant for Amazon training programs, the amount of money we ever made probably from social media ads, and I'm just talking revenue, not profit, would probably be less than $1,000. The amount of money we made from email promotions would be around $5 to $6 million. So that's just to give you an idea of people will actually buy stuff from you through an email address. And I know that it happens because that's how we actually made most of our entire company, was through email. So just keep that in mind. It's a little anecdote from my experience in a different sector, but that sector is not much different than this sector, and people are still the same, right? We'll get to what to do with this list a little bit later. That's kind of in the marketing stuff. We'll talk about that. But first, just a little reminder. Life is beautiful not because of the things we see or do. Life is beautiful because of the people we meet. And this is from Simon Sinek. This is just to kind of remind you that you're not doing this to just cash in on people. You're not trying to take advantage of people. You're trying to create a support system, a mutually beneficial relationship, symbiosis, as they call it, between you and your fan base. You offer them some cool stuff like music, merch, whatever that they want. And in return, they help support your career. So essentially, you support them, they support you. It's a symbiosis relationship. And I know it's an old-fashioned concept, but if you don't play shows and engage with real people, you're cutting a major limb off of your body for growth, right? So like you're cutting that major limb off. You need to grow by doing actual shows. So benefits of playing live shows and meeting real people. Well, you create a personal connection that is way more effective than anything else you can manufacture virtually. It's the fastest way to make friends. Meet them in person, right? Fans will keep an eye on you and tell others, I knew them when they played that local show. I saw them at that coffee shop, or I saw them at that bar. And then later, if you ever get big, they'll be watching you at a much bigger stage, and that'll be kind of that experience that they had with you. You can actually meet hosts, promoters, venue staff, and other helpful individuals that will actually help spread the word, not just about you, but then also if you can say, hey, we played this show over here. Can we play a show over at a different venue? And they can actually use you as a reference. Or if you want to stay somewhere, right? If you want to stay at somebody's house while you're traveling, then you can actually be hosted by them. So there's a lot of different cool things that you can actually do just by going and playing real shows. And you can get real fans in person to sign up to an email address and also to follow you online as well. So you can get them to follow your social media too. I just have to say this. If you're playing shows and not collecting emails from people, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. So how do you get real people onto your digital list? Well, let's talk about that. So how do you turn real people into online assets? Well, first you have to tell people to visit your booth or table or whatever. While you're playing a show, tell them to come meet you. Tell them, say, hey, come talk to us. This is called a call to action, or a CTA. When you tell them to do something, that's called a call to action. But only start with one call to action. If you have a booth or table, or just come meet us after the show, I'd like to meet you, whatever, make that the action. So don't say all this other stuff, right? Then have a sign-up sheet for email, or you can have like a QR code or something that they can scan and sign up. Tell them to follow you on social media, because now that they're talking to you, they're more likely to do this, right? Start with the most intimate thing first. Tell them to come talk to you. Then start working these less likely or less intimate things into the conversation, so they'll actually take these actions as well. And then give them an incentive to sign up. We'll talk about this in a minute, but you can have anything from stickers, koozie. You can just offer a hug, a link to an unreleased song / acoustic version of a song that you already have. And there's even an idea list that you can use that we'll have below a video coming up. And another thing you can do is send them to your link tree or something similar, and make sure that has a sign-up form on it. If you have no website, or no landing page, you can even just use something as simple as a link tree. And if you have a site, make sure that site has a sign-up form as well. Mention the incentive for signing up digitally as well. So if they sign up, hey, you get to check out this unreleased song that we've never released, or a music video that we've never released, or whatever, right? All right, so here's the steps. Not the actual how we're going to do it, but here's just kind of the overview of the steps that you're going to have. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have a QR code for people to scan that goes to an email capture page. I know it sounds very complicated, but essentially The QR code, we'll talk about this, is something they can scan with their phone that takes them to a page where it says like fill out your email and your first name or whatever, right? So that's essentially the first step. Once they enter that information, it's going to send them to another page that gives them a link or a download or something to actually collect their incentives. So, hey, here's a live version of us playing from last weekend. It'll take them to that video online or something like that. And then in the back end, their information will be sent to what's called ConvertKit. And this is something we're going to set up because it's a very useful email marketing tool that you're going to use. And I'll show you how to do that as well. And then what's going to happen as soon as that information is sent into ConvertKit, there will be some automation that's followed up here through emails, through a sequence to keep the fan warm and fuzzy. So, hey, you might say, first one, we'll talk about this more later as well. Hey, thanks for joining our, fan base. Here's just a quick question. Can you answer that and let me know what you think? Like, what's your favorite song of ours, whatever. And then at some point in the nurture sequence, you're actually going to upsell them with something. So maybe this is like, hey, we got a new album coming out, or hey, you want to join our Patreon page, or whatever it is. It'll actually increase your chances of creating income because this is all automated. And along the way, they're getting more and more information. And so like there's 5 steps there. It goes from them being captured through a QR code scan and entering their email, all the way through to some emails that get sent out that actually just automatically tell them throughout the sequence that say, hey, if you like what you've seen so far, maybe you'd like this, and you can actually purchase something. So that's how you can automate some income for yourself as well. Don't worry. Like I said, we'll go through each step one by one, but that's just an overview for you. Oh, and just as a side note, you're probably not promoting your shows enough. Fans need to easily find your show, and you need to show it to your fans a lot. This is an actual thing. So like top digital marketers, people who do this for, their living, suggest your followers need to see something at least 6 to 10 times is what the average stat is, but I say more than 7 times before they take action on it. For whatever reason, people will just skim past stuff, and if they just don't see it enough, they won't really make an effort to actually go and look at it. So you have to actually show that to them more than 7 times before they take action. Something to consider if you're trying to get people to take an action. And you probably only post about it on your story a couple of times, right? Well, if you are doing more than that, great. Because most of the bands that I know, they don't even post it on their social media. They just put it in their story. That's about it. So here's how you kind of want to promote your shows. And this is just kind of like the bare minimum, I would say. You can do more than this. You can do slightly less or kind of work around it in your own way. But this is something I would say you probably want to follow at least as a base foundation. First, create a post with the flyer on social media and pin it. So if you know how to pin your top post, you should do that. So that way when people are like, oh, where's that information about that, that concert or that tour that they have, pin it there so people can find it very easily so you can actually meet them at shows. Put that post on your story the same day it is announced and you post it. So once it's posted, then, put it into your story as well. So you'll get 2 different spots there. You can also create 3 to 5 reels out of the flyer and you can release them a day or 2 apart from each other. So that way you're kind of just announcing it right off the bat. And then you can also post those reels to your account, which it automatically does on Instagram now, and to your story. So make sure that you actually put it to your story. And in the week of your show, post every single day about it. Post real stories. Make sure that, if you're doing like multiple shows and you're touring, that you talk about each one as you go too. So like if you're doing, Nashville, Memphis, I don't know, Louisville or whatever, and you're kind of going in, the next 3 days, make sure you talk about, for 2 days at least, talk about Nashville. For 2 more days, talk about Memphis. For 2 more days, talk about Louisville or whatever. Make sure you're posting about each one of them. And again, don't worry about your fans leaving you from social media. They want to be told about your shows. That's why they followed you probably in the first place. If they're not there to know more about your shows, your music releases and that stuff, they're probably not really interested in your career anyway. They were probably there because you posted a meme or did something funny and they're following you for that reason. But if they didn't actually come to listen to your music and they just unfollow you, who cares? They're not there for the right reasons. Email your list as well about your upcoming shows. Just be aware that some of your fan base may not be in those locations. So if you're announcing a tour, send that to everybody. But if you're announcing like a specific, city or something, like if you're only playing one show in one city, you might just try to target the emails that are in that city if you can actually tag them. If you don't know how to do that, then just probably email your whole list and say, hey, by the way, we got a show. But don't go overboard and try to, sell it a bunch of times on there. So let's take some action. Right now, all I need you to do is understand that when you play a live show, you need to tell people how to stay in touch with you. come talk to us at the booth. Then tell them more and more stuff, right? But start with the most intimate and most friendly, most nurturing step first. Get to know them, meet them, right? Then give them a call to action. Go check out our, QR code. Then go sign up for free email, and then follow us on social media, whatever that is. And also stop feeling bad for posting about your shows. It's the best part about being a fan of a band. Talk about it as much as you possibly can.